Turn the fire off.
Okay, yeah, we're live, Chair. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to this informal Communities and Wellbeing Committee, which is being held remotely due to the current COVID Omicron situation. The meeting is being recorded and streamed via YouTube, where members of the public are able to watch the meeting. Please note that any comments posted on the chat feed of the Council's YouTube page during the recording of this meeting will not be monitored by the Council. A recording of this committee will be available on the Council's website following the meeting. I wish to remind members that this is not a formal meeting being held face-to-face, and there is no legislative provision for remote meetings. No formal decisions can be taken on behalf of the Council at this meeting. It is instead an opportunity for the members of the committee to debate and give a steer on their views relating to matters on the agenda, and for them to be subsequently progressed by officers. Any urgent decisions will be taken by the Chief Executive in accordance with the urgent decision procedure rules that form part of the Council's constitution. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so that the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. Please switch your profile to mute unless you are speaking. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand in order that I am aware that you wish to speak. Thank you. I would like to change the order of the business and take the concessions report before the budget report as part of the deferral at the previous meeting. Members, do you agree with this? Yes? Lovely. Thank you. So item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Emma, I don't believe there are any apologies, are there?
No apologies, Chairman. Thank you.
All members present. Thank you. So now we turn to item number 3, which will be the review of concessions to older people's community hires, which is on page 41. As set out in the report on page 41, it was agreed at the last meeting for officers to review and explore a reduction in the proposed fees and charges affecting groups hiring community facilities, specifically those of pensionable age. I would like to thank officers for providing a comprehensive report which clearly outlines the support and investment made by this council. Activity centres receive an existing significant community rate hire discount. The Grants for Older People's Group Fund is available to those who qualify, and the 3 activity centres receive an annual investment of £350,000, which makes us one of the few councils in Essex who provide activity centres. It comes as no surprise that it is recommended that no alternative discounts are offered. That being said, I'll now go to the officer to speak to the report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. So as you stated, yes, the committee in November of last year, we took the report on the annual service budget for fees and charges, and at that a resolution was passed that the committee defer the approval of the budget and ask officers to go away to look at reduction in the proposed changes to the fees and charges and come back to this committee with the full impacts of this on the overall budget. So the specific task there was to review and explore how a change in the proposed fees and charges would affect groups who hire community facilities that are operated by the council, specifically those of pensionable age and above. So as the chairman sets out, there are already a number of ways in which the council support older residents through our services and different opportunities we offer. I won't go into too much, as Councillor Sargent discussed, but obviously our activity centres are absolutely key to that, with over 1,200 members across the 3 of them. The committees there all do a fantastic job in supporting older residents, and I'm pleased that we have our staff there that are help too, as much as we can. These offer a fantastic range of activities and social events for older residents. Of course, one of the other things that the council operate and have done for many years now is a grants to older people's community groups, and that is a grant specifically in relation to rental costs for facilities, specific for older persons community groups that are based in the borough, and obviously applications are submitted to the council and reviewed, and with regards to our grant giving process as normal, with grants up to a maximum of £500. We have one round of this each year for those kind of requirements to annual costs. So with regards the specific question about what more we could do, as Councillor Sargent set out, we reviewed the existing regular hirers of the council community facility portfolio, specific to those that are providing support for those above those pensionable age or above specifically. And we only have one qualifying hirer across our portfolio that is operating in that space. I'm sure doing a very, very good job. And on the basis that they're doing that good job, as members will know, across our community portfolio, we offer different rates. One for the commercial rate, which is the standard rate that our hirers charge. But of course, we have the ability to offer a community rate for those that are doing such positive work within our communities, local charities, local groups and the like. I'm pleased to say that the one qualifying hirer mentioned above does gain and benefit from the community rate. As we sit here today, that's it's roughly a 28.74% discount. I'm very aware the next item is the fees and charges. So even if those are voted through by the committee, we will see basically the same discount. So it's approaching, I should say, a 30% discount for that group. So on that basis, bearing in mind the work that the council already does around its activity centres, its existing grant, and the opportunity to use the 30% discount community rate for such hirers, the recommendation officers are putting to the committee is that therefore to continue to provide the support as is in this report, and there not being the need for additional concessions for this. Obviously happy to take any questions. Thank you. You're on mute, Councillor.
Yeah, sorry. Members, are there any questions on the report? I can't see any. Can you, Emma?
No, Councillor, I can't. Oh,
sorry,
Councillor,
I just had a quick question. Can you explain why the other 2 activity centres do not qualify for the additional support?
I'm not certain I'm following the question, Councillor. So what we're talking about here is obviously the activity, you're talking about activity centres. So the activity centres are not part of the fees and charges. What we're talking about here is that at the George Hurd, we have hireable space as a centre, so that they can hire it outside of office hours, outside of operational hours. With the Pitsea and Langdon, they are both in essence, operating in community halls already. So the place, so if there will be hirers in the place, but that will be normal business for the place, or Pitsea Leisure Centre, whatever you like to call it. And similarly with Langdon Community Centre, that they will hire but obviously being an independent community association. So it's only the dual church that has that additional hireable space where it isn't part of its normal business. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions, members, the recommendation is that we just note the contents of the report. So I will now go on to the next item, which is the draft service budget general fund from 2022-23 to 25-26, including the fees and charges. There are no changes to this report from what we saw at the last committee. Having said that, after a recent discussion I had with Councillor Sullivan regarding the need to reopen the Trenham Community Centre to put it back into much needed community use until a community group come forward to manage the building, to allow the Trenham Community Hall to reopen as a directly managed facility, it needs a set of fees and charges for it. I would therefore like to raise an amendment to the recommendation, or to recommendation 2, that the proposed charges for the Crown Community Centre on page 35 of the report be adapted to cover both the Crown Community Centre and Trenham Community Hall. I am aware that that we are not making a decision, but this is an amendment that I would like to go forward to the policy committee so that they can take this amendment and make that decision. I believe it's next week. So after saying that, do I need a seconder at all, Emma?
Councillor, yeah, as you've rightly said, we're not actually making votes on the recommendation, so you wouldn't need a seconder. I guess as you're not actually it's not this committee that's making the decision, it's going to the resource and commercial. It would be for officers to take on board the amendment you want to make, and obviously then it would be for resources and commercial to make the decision whether they want to add the amendment.
Thank you. And I'm sure that members understand that. I've got a couple of questions. Councillor Henry.
It's not a question, Chairman. I think we spent quite a lot of time, or the committee spent time on this agenda item the last time, and I am not in a position tonight to second your amendment, but I certainly endorse it, and I think it's just sensible future proofing, and it saves the item having to bounce back to committee when we do find a suitable community person to run it. So I'm very, very happy with the contents of the report and the amendment as you've made it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a quick question. So just want to clarify something. So both the halls you're mentioning are owned by the council, but you're seeking someone to run them both, but you just need to get around the bureaucracy of fees and charges. Is that what you're seeking to do?
No.
Could you clarify what you're seeking to do? I mean,
no,
I'm supposed to...
I'm coming on to clarify. If you look at the amendment if you look at the report on page 35, the Crown Centre has its fees and charges set. And this was when the report was published. Since, and we've got a second stab at it this evening because of the deferral from the last committee. Well, since then, the Trenham Centre, as you may be aware, was closed, but the community would like to see it open. So what we've done, what I am seeking to do to reopen it without delay is to ask that the fees and charges for that hall, which is of similar size to the Crown Community Hall, for the Trenham fees and charges to be set as that of the Crown Community Hall. Do you understand, Councillor Smith, now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on the report? No? So with that, I will ask officers to please take the minutes or the suggested amendment from this committee to the Resources Committee and ask that they bear that in mind or take that on board rather, so that the Trenham Community Hall can be reopened and managed by the council for the time being, so that we get that back into community use. Thank you. So do we endorse these recommendations, Emma?
Yes, it's just to, just endorse and note, but no vote.
No voting. So we just endorse. So we just endorse
and note it
to the next committee those recommendations. Thank you. So the next item is the council response to the Essex Future Library Services consultation. I was personally very pleased to respond to the consultation, the library consultation, and I'm happy to endorse the council's response. There are great volunteering opportunities available and much needed community response or support rather. So I don't think there's any need for an officer to speak to the report. I'm sure you've all read it because it refers to the actual council response to the consultation. But there appears to be Councillor Henry, with a question. So, and I'm sure he'd like to speak to the report. Thank you, Councillor Henry.
Chairman, again, I don't have a question. I just want to go on record as saying, my God, what a difference between this consultation and the previous consultation. The last one, I think, caught everybody by surprise, certainly at the local level, because we had 2 of our 7 libraries under potential closure threat, and it's something we all sides, all parties agreed we didn't want. But I think in the interim, we've had an awful lot of community change. With the COVID lockdowns, I think people have had a re-evaluation of what community means to them, and certainly with those community spaces. My own local library at Langdon is fantastic. It's full all the time of people of all different age groups finding all different services. So I very much welcome the tone of Councillor McKinley's library consultation. I think it's a really, it's day and night different from the previous consultation, and I think it offers a real opportunity for communities to get involved and to protect the spaces that they value, and it's just a positive step change. I agree wholeheartedly with the remarks in the comments section of the consultation that you've returned, and I've returned a variation of that, very similar comments myself privately. So again, I just endorse it. I think it's a great thing, and I think that the work that we did, we listened at the last consultation, and I think this is the ability to then take that one stage further. And I fully endorse it, and I'm very proud of the work that Louise McKinley at County has done with this to take it this far. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. I totally agree with what you said. And I too support Councillor McKinley's contribution to this. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, each side has to have two sides to a coin, so we'll happily be the other side of that coin. I better declare, as is my colleague, Councillor Henry, both Essex County councillors. I was heavily involved with fighting to save our libraries when the previous consultation was looking to axe that service. So if I can start off with a question for yourself, Madam Chairman, to know, is to ask our officers of the council to liaise with Essex to see what the actual book need was. In the summer of 2019, from memory, we allocated, this committee, Housing and Communities Committee, allocated £6,000 to buy books based on where the need was. And the two libraries threatened with closure, Vange and Friends, were the ones most in desperate need of books, whereas Billericay and Wickford didn't need any books. So when that report was published in the autumn of that year, we allocated a further £6,000 and we made sure some books were bought in Wickford and Billericay and also the other libraries in the borough. And my colleague who's here tonight, Councillor Yacoub, I think it was £1,200, Councillor Yacoub will correct me, that she lobbied for to buy BAME character books. So after that investment of in excess of, I believe, £12,000 from memory, it would be worthwhile to get an update on that to see how that's going, and possibly do we need any more investment to purchase books to make sure none of our libraries are blighted. So if I could leave that point where it is and move on. Now, I don't know if you've seen the document produced by our Councillor Louis Keys McKinley, the Deputy Leader of Essex, in association with former MP Justin Greening, about this levelling up across Essex. Now, two of the ward councillors for Langdon Park are here tonight, and that document oddly claims that is one of the wards across the country in most need of levelling up. So that leads to a further question. Is it possible, Madam Chairman, that yourself and your Vice Chairman, Councillor Tunde, here tonight, approach Councillor Louise McKinley and say, if Langdon Park is the ward in most need of levelling up, will you make a future investment into Langdon Library? Because I'm only speaking to the data, not an opinion. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Smith, the report is in relation to the council's response to the consultation. I will ask the officer for advice because I know there are some of us that are not aware of the sums of money that you have spoken about, or whether there would be an answer for you on the sums of money. And with regard to the levelling up, Councillor Smith, you are a county councillor and you have great access, like all other county councillors, to Councillor McKinley. Have you thought of speaking to her yourself on Langdon Park? I'm sure that Councillor Henry has, but I'll go to the officer in seek of a response to that. Thank you, Emma.
Madam Chairman, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, I've just gone to Emma with regard to what do we do about those questions? Is there an officer to answer them, or because really the report wants us to endorse the consultation?
Yeah, we have got a couple of the officers here that wrote the report. I don't know if they're able to, we've got Tom and Sam here this evening. They may be able to give a bit of background.
I'm happy to pick up on Councillor Smith's levelling up question. I'll leave the specifics of the library and the book funding to colleagues. But on the levelling up question, the Community Needs Index is the index that identified Langdon Park as the I think it said the ward most in need of levelling up in the country. It's the first time I'd seen that index. Levelling Up has relied on a Treasury generated index that isn't one of the standard deprivation or inequality indices that are generally used. However, I'm in conversation with officer colleagues at Essex at the moment to develop a data profile for the whole borough. So we will be looking at other data sources and looking at the whole borough through that lens. So conversations are continuing with officer colleagues on the whole levelling up piece. As I said, I'm actually seeing officers at Essex tomorrow to progress this. So this is an ongoing and unfolding piece of work. This relates to, as you rightly spotted, Councillor Smith, the Essex County Council have launched their own levelling up programme. We are talking to them about Basildon's one of their 6 priority areas. They've identified our estates specifically, but we're talking to them about levelling up opportunities in the whole borough, and we'll be developing work with them going forward from this point. That sits alongside and extra to the government's own levelling up fund, which we're expecting another round of bids to be launched sometime in the spring.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you also for sending out to councillors last week the borough profiles. Very useful. Councillor Smith, has that answered your question on the levelling up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll bring that up, and I'm glad the Officer Tom's working on this. Because I mean, I don't want to denigrate Langdon Park. Councillor Emery and Councillor Brown, they're the elected champions for Langdon Park and Freelands Division, and good luck to them, and I'll fight for Wesley Heights wherever I can and however I can. But I just think, for those of us who've been around the borough, it's an odd ward to be the ward in the country to be in most need of levelling up. It just doesn't add up. I thought it might have been Vange, the Pixies, the Freelands. I just would never have thought it was Langdon Park. So there's obviously some discrepancy in the data by Essex County Council. So but it's something maybe, Madam Chairman, you could bring back to the committee at a later date after speaking with Tom, because when you look, as you know, when you look around the borough, there is a lot of deprivation. And our colleague here tonight, Yatunde, she can take you around parts of Vangewold that really are in desperate need of levelling up. And
if you want, I think, being as it's in the report that was produced by Councillor McKinley, it might be an idea to have a word with her as to how she actually came to put that in the report. Can I go back to the officer, any officer now that can speak to the funding that was given to the libraries that Councillor Smith referred to?
Yes, Councillor, I can confirm that the funding did get transferred to Essex County Council. At the time the funding went over, it was made clear that although books would be provided to libraries in the borough, those books also go into wider circulation elsewhere in Essex. But we could get an update on that particular question for Councillor Smith after the meeting.
Thank you, Sam. That would be good. So we'll get that question answered and we'll get that out to members of the committee, please. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Chair. We know the history behind this and the reasons why the previous consultation was, well, the people of Essex said a resounding no. This does read better, and I cautiously welcome it. I see on page 70, for example, in infrastructure and communications, on the last paragraph, it still states we will consider whether our libraries are in the right locations for our residents today and in the future. And I wondered if there was any insight into what that sentence might mean, or whether there are additional documents that we don't have in front of us which may give more light to that, please.
Oh, sorry. Are there any officers that can respond to Councillor Davis's question?
Yes, Councillor, there are no additional documents to supplement the consultation. All I would say is that in the consultation response on aim to infrastructure and communications, there is a point on there where the consultation asks about developing a planned programme of improvements to our buildings. And for that reason, we've indicated neither agree nor disagree, because there isn't enough information to understand exactly what that entails.
Thank you, Sam. Are you okay with that response, Councillor Davis?
I'm okay with that response, but I'll be, obviously me and the Labour group will be keeping a close eye on the further developments, but thank you.
But again, as a, as a county councillor, I'm sure that Louise would be happy to respond to you. Councillor Henry.
Yeah, I think, sorry, I just wanted to come back to Kerry's point about the index of deprivation. I read that to be my division rather than the ward specifically, which obviously my division includes Lee Chapel North and Freelands, but that's how I read it. But I'm pleased that Tom's got a meeting tomorrow and can maybe get some clarity on what those new indexes are and how it's so very different from what we'd imagine it would be, because it would not have been Langdon Park for me either. As its member on 2 councils, I wouldn't have thought it was the one that needed the most, to be perfectly truthful. There's other places that jumped straight out at me before that, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. As you said, Tom hopefully will be able to respond to that for us. Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you. I also welcome this, and I think one of the kind of defining parts of this is where it says the library service aims to be relevant to people from birth to retirement. I think that's exactly the kind of attitude we should have towards our libraries. And I think that, the approach that we are now taking, that Essex County Council is now taking, is a lot better and looks a lot more promising. But I mean, as Councillor Davis said, we welcome it cautiously. I think that when it comes to children's centres, a lot of children's centres have seen reductions. And I think libraries is one of those things that kind of steps in. So where it comes to rhyme time or sessions with toddlers, I think libraries do really good on that. But I think we need more. And especially as a parent myself, I used libraries a lot when my daughter was little. But I don't know if there's much going on for children of school age, and if they have a lot of after school sessions, or if they even have, support sessions for children after school. And I think things like that would really help enhance libraries. One of the things I love about the library in the town centre is the sensory stuff that we have there. That's one of the most appealing aspects of the library for a parent. And I think we need to look at having something like that in as many libraries as possible. I think it really helps children, with special needs or not. It is so soothing for children to have that kind of sensory rooms or a sensory area to go to. And it just adds to the experience. So, I mean, that's just kind of what I wanted to add to that. And I just wanted to ask in general, I was just curious, how many staff do we have in each of our libraries versus volunteers? Because one of the things I'm quite concerned about is having libraries where there's a lot more volunteers. I do think there's a very special place for librarians who are experts in their fields. And I'm really worried that, I love that there's volunteering opportunities, but I want there to be a very designated space for those librarians as well. And I think that as a council, we need to try and protect that.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Yacoub. You make some excellent points, particularly around the sensory rooms. I mean, I don't know whether Sam will be able to answer that question. It might be something that can be taken back to County Council by Sam, because it is worth it. I know that libraries have become more than a library. You know, they're shared spaces now for lots of other activities, as well as the library, which is, you know, a very good thing. And I know that a lot of the volunteers do operate there. Sam, are you able to answer the question on the sensory rooms being set up in other libraries and the amount of staff, the volunteers? Because I do understand that library staff have to be professionals, and I've got no idea what the volunteers do, apart from, you know, the other things that they do within libraries. But we'll see if Sam can answer any of those questions. Thank you.
Sure. So I don't have specific numbers on the ratio of permanent staff librarians versus the number of volunteers. It is mentioned in the consultation that they're looking to explore new roles and opportunities for volunteers to enhance the service. So that is something they are looking at. I know in the previous consultation there was a move towards having more volunteers running services, but that doesn't seem to be coming through in this particular consultation. But it's certainly something we can ask of county just to get the specific numbers on that. In terms of sensory rooms and other services for children and young people, it is mentioned, and it does come through in the consultation, that the county are looking at support for children, specifically in getting them ready for school and developing reading skills. There is also mention of exploring other activities for libraries, some of which will be chargeable, but it's something that could be incorporated into our response if members so wished.
Yes, Sam, I think that would be a very good idea, and I'm sure members would agree to that too. I'll come on now to Councillor Adisha.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Madam Chairman, for the opportunity to say something on this subject. With regards to the libraries, I definitely welcome this report, and I am in full support of it. What would be good, as Councillor Yaqub has already mentioned, is the additional services that the libraries can offer the community. I know that when I campaigned for it, when I first stood in Vange, campaigned for the libraries to remain open, one of the suggestions that I put forward was actually not to close it, but to make the facility more welcoming for residents and more attractive for residents to start using the facilities more. So the approach that I took at that time was not to close it, but to make it more appealing to the residents to actually continue using it. I know that I used to use Vange Library and Pitsley Library when my kids were a bit younger, and we took part in things like the summer school reading competition, and there was Saturday morning activities there. So it's not that they haven't had activities, but maybe more activities that is more suitable for the evolving families that we have. So maybe when my kids were growing up, things might have moved on a bit. So they might just want to look at the kind of offerings that they have and just make sure that is actually suitable and more appropriate to the communities that it serves. But certainly welcome the approach of looking at the future of libraries in Basildon. Thank you.
Thank you, Yetunde, for your words. It looks like your campaign was pretty successful, because what we've got in front of us is a good report and you know, something to look forward to in any case of, you know, of the library service. Councillor Smith, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Madam Chairman, just to quickly say, because through the Chairman, Madam Chairman, Councillor Henry was querying whether it was wards or divisions. They were actually wards. Because I did pull that apart, because like I say, whoever wrote that really needs to take a visit to Basildon. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for that, Councillor Smith. I think Sam's got those items, and or Sam or Tom, either one of them, and they'll once they've got the answers, I'm sure they'll circulate the responses to us. I don't appear to have any more questions on this, so I believe all we have to do is to endorse the consultation. Am I right, Emma, please?
That's right, Chairman. Yeah. Thank you.
So we will endorse the report, and we will now come on to item 5, which is the consultation and engagement strategy planning tool.
Bobo, put the oven on and make us a coffee, please. What's happened to the mic?
Okay, anyhow, I'll continue. Since taking administration, a number of new and reviewed policies have been agreed. Most recently, the consultation and engagement policy. It is the strategy that follows that's most important to ensure we carry out the aims of the policy. I welcome the strategy planning tool to enable the development of competent strategies, and thank officers for the opportunity to comment on the planning tool. So I will ask the officer if he would like to give a brief rundown of the report before we take questions. Thank you.
Councillor, I'm happy to do that if that's okay.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. So as you mentioned, the committee approved the consultation engagement policy in October, and we advised at that time that the strategy would be prepared. And this report provides an update on how that development of the strategy is progressing. So attached to enclosure 1 in your agenda is the strategy planning tool, as you mentioned, which we use as officers to plan and develop council strategies. It's completed as the process evolves and provides a snapshot at any one time of where we are at that moment with developing the strategy. And as the strategy author, I'm working through that tool at the moment to develop the content for the strategy, which will emerge as we progress. And that content will be used to incorporate it into the draft strategy. So the tool ensures that key considerations are made at the right time in the process in order that you end up with a well-structured and thought-out strategy that can deliver the outcomes and priorities of the policy. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have at this time on its content so far.
So members, do you have anything to add or comment on within the strategy planning tool? Councillor Davis.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting read. I see under the threat section of the SWOT matrix, strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats. Halfway down on the threats, it talks about consultation fatigue. The number of consultations being run by the council is ever increasing and risks the residents' appetite to engage to dwindle. What other means would there be of engaging with residents other than via consultation fatigue, which I can obviously understand as there have been many over the last couple of years?
So what we'd be looking to do through the strategy is making sure that we are planning our consultations, hopefully so they don't all arrive at the same time, so that residents, have an opportunity to take part and not be overburdened with lots of consultations coming through at one time. So with the strategy, we'd be looking at how we can structure consultations throughout the year to get the best landing with residents. At the moment, we do a lot of consultations online through survey work, and we might want to consider if we can expand that in the future to using other tools and other methods of engagement. So it might be, hopefully, as the pandemic eases, we might do some more face-to-face activities, so workshops or online online workshops, for example. And there's other means, you know, just through natural conversation, to get insight into how people view things that the council are doing. So it's really about what can we do to prevent consultation fatigue happening by using the strategy to deliver that. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Sam. Are there any more questions or comments on the planning tool? It doesn't appear that we have any further questions. So, and Sam has responded to Councillor Davis's question. So I think that's all we have to say on that one, Sam. So Sam and Tom, thank you very much indeed for bringing that to our attention. And we look forward to seeing the final document at a committee sometime in the future when you've completed it. Okay? Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
So now I believe we come on to our last item, which is the work programme. So on page 90, we have a number of items which are coming to the next committee on the 2nd of March, and one where that one's to be agreed. So at the moment, I've got a question from Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you,
Yeah,
Madam Chairman.
sorry, I've muted. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. It's just very quickly, now we've lost dengue, just an update on the Purple Pound project for the town centre and other town centres.
The Purple Pound.
Yes, please.
Can any officers here give an update on the Purple Pound, please?
Councillor, apologies, I haven't got anything on me about what has happened with the Purple Pound, but certainly I can speak to officers and get that circulated, or perhaps Councillor Henry knows.
Yeah. Jeff, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say that you know, since Kerry and myself were on this committee, I think maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, it's gone from being the Purple Pound policy or Purple Pound initiative to being the inclusive Basildon thing, and actually it's morphed into quite a lot more than just Tuesday in November. You'll remember, Kerry, we had a consultant down that did quite a lot of work and presented back to the community, Housing and Communities Committee, a few times. So it hasn't gone away and it hasn't been buried. It's just actually it's evolved because the Purple Pound, when we discussed it in the original night and voted it through, and I fully supported your motion and still support the policy, it could go further, and dengue took it further. So the Purple Pound policy goes to the inclusive Basildon policy. So that's what the item is. It's just a number of years since we've called it that. So that's it, Madam Chairman.
That's all we have for you at the moment, Councillor Smith. Mr. Brace has said that he can make some questions if you're not satisfied with what Councillor Henry has said. If you just let me bring in Councillor Yacoub and I'll come back to it. Thank you.
So mine is actually on a different topic. So we passed a motion through full council about making Basildon breastfeeding friendly. And I'd really like to see an update on our work programme pertaining to that, so that we know what has been done, what's been carried out. I've really tried to be a part of that process, but unfortunately was excluded. That's the only way I can put it. But regardless of who's doing it and who's involved, I'd really like to see an update on it, because it is something that I am really passionate about, and we got a lot of responses from people. I personally had a lot of responses from people who said that this is something we really need. I think it validated a lot of people who felt uncomfortable and kind of, for the first time got the sense that actually this is something that we as a community can tackle together. So I'd really like to see an update, a written update if possible, on that as a report for one of the upcoming committees.
Is Grant still here?
Yes, Councillor, I'm still here.
I'll go to the officer, because Grant and I have done something on that, and I can give you a little bit more of an update. It hasn't been left, but Grant, if you would mind.
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously,
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor. Yeah, previously we've obviously been working with the Essex Child and Wellbeing Family Service, who've trained staff, a number of our kind of community outreach posts, and we've been participating in their scheme to get us promoted, those community places promoted as being breastfeeding friendly, and ensuring that we've got the relevant stickers and certificates put up, etc. We're also very lucky that we managed to reach out to Essex Bras as well, who are a support group made up of residents from I say Essex, but I think it was actually Basildon and Thurrock Bras. I apologise. Residents from both of our borough and our neighbouring borough of Thurrock, who are doing some positive work in relation to that. Providing support and help for them to find access to further community facilities, which I think Councillor Sargent might be able to add to, because I think certainly in her role as a community association lead was helpful there, and also being able to support them with the launch of their breastfeeding initiative over in Gloucester Park, etc. So we're still very much providing ongoing support for them as is necessary. I'm more than happy to pull together a report stipulating all of that, if that helps, of course.
Thank you, Grant, for that update. And yes, the group that first approached you, they were needing some premises. Grant and I met with them, and fortunately, I was able to accommodate them at the Notebridge Village Hall, where they are using on a Friday afternoon, and have started to build up the numbers of the people that use it, and it's it's very successful. And I pop in from time to time. They did have, as Grant has mentioned, an event, I believe it was kind of summertime, although it wasn't, it was piddling down of rain on the day, over at Gloucester Park. I did ask if they had invited you and had been in touch, and they said they had, but I think you had mentioned that you were happy to leave it to myself, as I was in the role of the chair of communities. But they did invite you to the event, and myself and the mayor went to support them, and it was a very successful day, and they are well supported, and they're doing a fabulous job. And I'm sure that if you're around to pop in and see them, they're absolutely delighted to have some premises. But that's only one arm of breastfeeding. But when you spoke to your motion at council, and when you brought it there, and I also spoke on it, we do, as I'd said at the time, we do have a setup from Essex County Council that has got the shops and the certificates and the safe places and the places where they, you know, where ladies feel comfortable breastfeeding their babies. So there is a lot going on, and I'm very glad that you actually brought that motion to council, and I'm happy that we have now been able to work with the group and Essex County Council to ensure that we do not leave behind, you know, those people, because it's very important that ladies breastfeed, and you know, they do it comfortably wherever they, you know, wherever they wish to. So, but I will take Grant up on his offer of bringing a short report, and so that we can update and see if there's any further support that we can, you know, that we can give the ladies. But anybody wishing to know any further would be, you know, that they are an excellent group, the Bras. They are very, very good at what they do, and I think you'd be extremely proud of them, and they'd be happy to answer any questions as to regarding the service that they provide. Is that okay with you, Councillor Yakub?
Yeah, that's fine with me. And like I said, it would be really good to have a written report on it, just so that we all know what's been going on. And I'm really glad that it's taken off and that we've been able to provide this support. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions on the work programme? So I believe that this report is just for noting, no decisions. So
Correct.
That brings us to the end of our evening, and I thank you all very much for attending. You can all go off now and have a nice cup of coffee, and we'll see you. We'll all be together next Thursday at full council. So take care.